Hey, welcome back to Real Estate Bites. This is episode number 115. Right off the rip, I want to apologize if you hear some loud noises in the background, banging, whatnot. There's some construction going on next door. So when we first moved in here, it was a hair salon next door. And shortly after moving in, the owner, God have peace on this woman. I think something was clearly very wrong with her. She ended up over here accusing Owen and I of conspiring with some global corporation to take her down. Meanwhile, she's living out back of the strip center here in a circa 1982 RV. It was an interesting little time. She got evicted and now they're building a Pilates studio next door. So again, if you can hear that background noise, I don't know if these mics will pick it up or not, but I apologize if you do. Okay, so what are we talking about today? We're talking about ownership, basically, of the process. Before we get into that, though, 'tis the season, not only for the holidays, but for recruiting. You know, I started selling real estate in 2017, had a wonderful time with it. I've been able to build a business selling $8 to $10 million in real estate a year, which here in Northeast Ohio is pretty good. I've been in the top 5% of producers in the greater Cleveland area since I started, essentially. And, doing that, working 50 hours a week, maybe, never have to miss anything with my kids. I've been able to coach their sports teams all the way up into high school. I'm the head coach of my daughter's varsity high school soccer team. And don't have to miss anything with my family. We can travel. It's been fantastic. I love it. And, I've done it by creating a very strong network, working with my community, and I don't pay for leads at all, ever. My people send me the business all the time. I do very limited marketing, and I stay busy, and we live comfortably. And if that sounds like an attractive way to live and do business to you, give me a call. I'm here. I opened this up for a couple reasons. One, I wanted to make more money, but two, I definitely want to show people how to build the same sort of business. I believe that a career in sales can be transformational. It has been for me and my family. It took us from being on welfare many years ago to living very, very comfortably. And if you're looking for that transformation, give me a call. Let's talk. Let's see if I can help you get there. All right. So that said, sales lesson number one for free. It's your fault. Okay. So when I was selling park equipment, and things were going wrong inside of a deal or a project, and I would call the boss, my mentor, Blake Hobson, and I would call him up and I would get to bitching about what has gone wrong and why it's gone wrong. And no matter what the reason for a deal or something going sideways in the course of the deal or project, he would always say, well, Jonathan, it's your fault. And boy, that would piss me off, especially when it came down to something that I wasn't even something that it was not in my area of responsibility, right? I'm not the installer. I'm not the install coordinator. I'm not the client. I'm not, that was their responsibility, their job. And he would say, Jonathan, it's your fault. And yeah, it chapped my ass for quite a while until it actually sank in. And look, he would explain why it was my fault, but I wasn't ready to listen to it. Until one day when it sank in. And so I'm here to tell you that whether you sell real estate or playgrounds or medical equipment, regardless of what sort of consultative sales position or product you're involved in, if the relationship, the deal, if it goes sideways, if it falls apart, it's your fault. It doesn't matter who made the mistake. It doesn't matter where the ultimate or direct responsibility lies. It lies with you. The easiest way to start to really swallow that and live with it, take it down into the bone marrow and live this, is by understanding that you are the face of the entire operation to the client. Regardless of what you're selling, if you go out and you create a relationship with a client, no matter what you're doing, you are the face of that deal, that project, that equipment. you're the face of it. Okay. And so what I learned by sort of the first thing I did, the first step in taking the sort of responsibility and taking ownership and understanding truly that it was my fault was when things went wrong, regardless of who did it. It was the loan officer who didn't collect the information or who let it slip, or it was the title company who got to their title work way too late. The reality is this: I would stop and I would look at the situation before getting angry and pointing fingers. I would look at the situation and I would think to myself, Jonathan, at what point could you have stepped in and made that call, sent that email, checked into that thing, and have made a difference? Okay? It is my fault. It's my job to manage the deal or the project or whatever it is till the very end. And so in order to do that and to do it well and efficiently, you have to do everybody else's job. Now, obviously, I'm not going to the lender's office and entering data into his computer, but I am calling them and making sure that the appraisal has been ordered, that the equipment has been put on order, that we have a shipping date, whatever it is, right? I'm just, this is a sales professional thing, no matter what industry you're in. I'm making that call to make sure that everything is on track. I'm reaching out to the title company to make sure that they've begun their title work, to make sure, how's it going? Are there problems? Are there things that we need? Is there anything that you are waiting on from any party? Mr. Mrs. Lender, Mr. Mrs. Title person, is there anything that you're waiting on that we need done for you to do your job so we can get this thing processed efficiently and on time? And if there is, let me know what that is. And I'm going to go and I'm going to make the call, okay, to try to make sure that that's happening. Now, here's a key in all of this when it comes to maintaining the relationship, because I understand the reality is you're not actually physically doing the job of the other people. You cannot make them or force them to do the job. All you can do is call and check in, right? And make sure that everything's on track. But once you have done that, once you've called that lender and you've asked if they've got everything that they need, are things on track? Do we look like we're going to hit that closing date? Title company, do you got everything you need from everybody? Is there any information I can go get for you? Are we good to close on this date? Once you've made that call and you've gotten the information back, the feedback from whomever it is you were working with, your very next communication should be to the client, hey, I just checked in with lender, with title, with shipping, with the project manager, with the GC. I just checked in. Here's the status that they relayed to me. If there is something to do after that status, here's what I'm going to do next. If there isn't anything because they say everything's all good, well, that's what they communicated to me. Now you're keeping your client informed. You're letting them know exactly what's going on. And so if the people whom you're checking with don't do their job and something goes wrong, there's a record. Your client knows that you've been on top of it and you've been checking in. Why? Because every time you do, you're calling the client and you're letting them know the steps that you have taken to protect them and their interests in the course of the deal, right? You can't go and do the LO's job. You cannot go and do the underwriter's job, the appraiser, all that kind of stuff. All you can do is check on them, make sure that they're doing their job, and then report back to your client. And as long as you're doing that, and you're trying to eliminate any surprises, you're on top of it, you're ahead of it, that's taking care of your client. That's taking care of your person, because then they know what you're actually doing, right? Because if you're not communicating to them that way, they don't think you're doing anything. And you know what? If you're not checking with the lender, with title, with whomever, if you're not making those calls, then you're not doing your job. And if you're not doing your job, you got no job to report to them, then they're justified in thinking you haven't been doing your job and you're not earning your commission, right? You own it. It's your fault when things go wrong. It is on you to be very self-critical when there's a problem inside of a deal or relationship and think back to what could I have done to have avoided this problem here today. And when you think and you find that, because there's almost 100% of the time always something you could have done, when you figure out what that is, then you incorporate that into your practice. And so the next time you have a deal that you're working through, you remember the pain that you felt when shit went sideways, and you make sure it doesn't happen again to you or your client. All right? You own it. It's your fault. Understand it, swallow it. It's a bitter, bitter taste, but let that sink into your bones and carry it forward in your career. And you will see an improvement in the relationships that you create, in the workflow of your deals. You're going to be able to get in front of problems that you didn't see coming, that no one foresaw coming. And at a minimum, you're going to be able to preserve the good relationship that you have with your client, because you're checking, you're communicating with them. They know you're on top of it. They know that you're looking out for them. They know that you're doing your job. And so if something goes wrong, they can recall. You don't even have to explain. They can recall. Well, yeah, I remember you called me. You told me every time you checked in, and they said they were doing this. So, you know what I'm saying? It's your fault. Own it. Okay. All right. Moving on to this week's statistics. All right, here we go. Again, episode 115. This morning, there were 500 single families and condos on the market here in Lorain County. There were 73 closings last week in Lorain County. The median square feet of the homes sold last week was 1,738. The median sale price was $260,000. Median square foot value, $158.17. All right, guys. So this, I'm starting to see a bit of a correction here in these numbers, right? We were on average in Q3 of 2025 looking at a median square foot value of $175.54. Now we are over 2 months. We're over 2 months. Q4 is almost over. And as you can see from this line of numbers here, that average is at $168.34. That is a $7.20 correction of square foot value in the last 2+ months. Okay. We are seeing a correction in pricing right here. This next line item, this next column, average days on market, 32. The week prior, it was 34. All right. So I don't know if you remember, a couple months back, I had my boy Jay Sloan from Legacy Home Finance on, and we were talking about what is he seeing in the market. And he was talking about low mortgage applications. He was talking about, basically a real slump in demand. And here we are 2 months later, and we are seeing that manifest. All right. We're seeing that manifest in price corrections. We're seeing that manifest in extra time on market. I mean, we're talking about an additional 2 weeks on market than what we were looking at prior to these past couple weeks. So we have seen demand slowing, and we are seeing a bit of a correction here in Q4 2025. Once we get into the new year, I mean, I listened to a podcast called Macro Voices. It's about macroeconomics. It is a brilliant podcast hosted by Eric Townsend and Philip Cerezna. Oh man, forgive me. I forget. It's not like these dudes know me, but it's a fantastic podcast. And they talk about just that. They talk about economics. They talk about geopolitics, how it affects markets. They're talking about what's going on with commodities. It's a wonderful podcast. And the guest that they had on this week was talking about, we're coming up on midterm elections next year. And we think the administration is going to do everything in their power to continue to push energy prices down and to continue to push for lower rates, as they're really the only thing that they can do to affect affordability for homes is by pushing down rates. Because the federal government, where maybe they can do something about supply, they're really not doing anything about supply. So their play is to reduce interest rates and make housing more affordable that way. That's what we should be able to expect in the first half of 2026 as we approach those midterms. They need something to hang their hat on. Otherwise, the Republican Party might be, in a bit of trouble. So these are things that we can expect. But until we see that happen, I think that this trend might continue. This small correction here in pricing, even here in the Midwest. Okay, so 6.24% is where the 30-year note for a conventional mortgage was this morning. And then the big sale last week was $879,900 in Avon. It was new construction with no pictures, so we're not going to look at it, but I can tell you it was a nice, big, beautiful 2,300 square foot colonial with a nice, vinyl / stone facade. Good looking house, $879,900 in Avon. That was our big one for last week. All right, that wraps up episode 115 of Real Estate Bites. I appreciate you guys every week. Hey, look, if you like this stuff, share this program with friends and family who are interested in real estate. This little QR code up here in the corner is a link to my YouTube site where obviously I'm uploading every single one of these that I do to YouTube so that they can be kept in posterity, because Facebook will erase old episodes after 2 months. So you can go again to my YouTube site here and look up, dozens of old topics that we've covered in the past. And again, share it with friends and family. Thank you for joining me. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. I love you, people. We'll see you next week.